You think your home is clean? A Japanese home might quietly disagree. The gap between the two isn't about effort. It comes down to a different idea of where private space ends and shared space begins. Today, 9 everyday habits that most homes never think twice about, and that a Japanese home treats as a boundary. Stay with it until the 4th one, because that's the one backed by an actual number most people have never heard. The 7th has a real term used in Japanese workplaces. And the last one we'll save for the end because it's the quietest habit on the list, and the one that says the most about how a table gets shared. Before any of that, one idea makes the rest click. In a Japanese home, the question is never how dirty something is. It's whether it stays with you or belongs to the room. The first habit starts right at the front door. 1. The entryway line. Picture the walk from a car door to a kitchen counter, a gas station floor, a parking lot, maybe a public sidewalk still damp from the morning. Every one of those surfaces leaves something behind. And in most homes, it rides straight across the kitchen tile, the living room rug, the spot on the floor where a child sits to tie their shoes. In a Japanese home, that walk stops at the genkan, a small step down just inside the front door where outdoor shoes come off before anything else happens. Research from the University of Arizona has measured an average of 421,000 bacteria on a single shoe sole, with the vast majority transferring to a clean floor on first contact. The genkan isn't a style choice, it's a boundary. The same logic carries indoor slippers only as far as certain rooms and sets aside a separate pair just for stepping near the toilet, so that no single pair of slippers ever crosses every kind of surface in the home. Delivery boxes get sliced open and left in the genkan, rather than carried straight to the kitchen table, and umbrellas drip dry there too, never making it past that first threshold. Sometimes the cleanest home isn't the one that gets scrubbed most often. It's the one that decided at the door what never gets to come inside in the first place. 2. Wash before you soak. Think about the last long soak you took after a hard day, filling the tub, sinking in, letting the warm water do the work of washing away the day, along with everything on your skin. In a Japanese bathroom, the tub is treated differently. Washing happens first, standing or seated beside the bath with a handheld shower until the body is fully rinsed. Only then does anyone step into the water, which stays clean enough for the next family member to reuse without draining it. The same order shows up at public bathhouses and hot springs, where a washing station sits beside every communal bath, and skipping it isn't a small faux pas. It's the one rule everyone is expected to already know. Even at home, it's common for the last person to rinse the tub itself before the next soak, keeping the boundary between the water and whatever it touched perfectly clear. The water was never the part that got you clean. It was only ever the part that let you rest, once the cleaning was already done. 3. The lid before the handle. Consider what happens in the seconds after a toilet flushes in most bathrooms. The sink is right there, the toothbrush is sitting open on the counter, and nobody thinks twice about the space in between. In many Japanese homes, the lid comes down before the handle is ever touched, treating the flush the way a sneeze gets treated anywhere else in the house, contained rather than let out into the open room. Toothbrushes tend to live behind a cabinet door instead of standing on the counter, tucked out of reach of whatever that space might carry. The same instinct extends to hand towels and razors, too. Small, everyday objects kept just far enough from the toilet that no one has to think about where they've been. Many bathrooms are even built as a separate room entirely, with the sink and shower kept apart from the toilet altogether, so the two never have to share the same air in the first place. It's a small habit closing a lid before pressing a handle, but it says something about a home that would rather prevent a problem quietly than clean one up loudly. So far, each of these habits has been about where a space begins and ends. The next three lie somewhere smaller in the exact routines a pair of hands goes through every single day. 4. 20 seconds, not 6. Most hands come out from under the tap in about the time it takes to say a short sentence. A quick rinse that feels complete simply because water touched skin. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention recommends a minimum of 20 seconds of active scrubbing with soap to meaningfully remove the germs a quick rinse leaves behind, roughly the time it takes to hum a short song twice. In Japan, a 6-step method taught in schools since childhood. Palms, backs of hands, between fingers, thumbs, fingertips, turns that 20 seconds into something closer to a small, practiced ritual than an afterthought. The same attention shows up before meals, after returning home, and after any contact with something shared, less a rule to remember than a rhythm the hands already know. Elementary school posters walk children through each of the 6 steps in order, turning a habit most adults were never formally taught into something learned early enough to become automatic. 20 seconds sounds like nothing, but it's the difference between hands that feel clean and hands that actually are. 5. Water over paper. For most people, finishing up in the bathroom means reaching for paper and considering the job done, the same way it's been done for as long as anyone can remember. In Japan, that's only seen as half the job. As of a Cabinet Office survey in 2018, just over 80% of multi-person households owned an electronic toilet with a built-in bidet function, a number that has only grown since. The logic mirrors something already familiar. Hands that get dirty are washed with water, not just wiped, so the rest of the body follows the same standard. Walk into a convenience store, an office building, or a modest apartment almost anywhere in the country, and the same feature shows up as a baseline expectation rather than an upgrade. Newer models go further still, warming the seat and adjusting water pressure automatically, treating comfort and hygiene as the same design problem instead of 2 separate ones. Even train station restrooms, some decades old, have often been retrofitted with the same feature over the years, treating it as essential infrastructure rather than a luxury add-on. Paper alone was never wrong. It was simply doing half a job that water was always better suited to finish. 6. The private sniffle. A runny nose in the middle of a meeting or a train ride usually gets handled the same way, almost everywhere. A tissue, a firm blow, and moving on without a second thought. In Japan, that moment is handled almost in reverse. A quiet sniffle is considered far less disruptive than the sound and visibility of blowing one's nose in a shared space, so it gets carried privately until a restroom or an empty stairwell is close by. It isn't really about the nose itself. It's about what a shared train car or office is and isn't the place for. The same instinct shows up around coughing into a sleeve rather than the open air and stepping just slightly away from a group before clearing one's throat. Face masks, worn for a cold long before they became a global habit, follow the same reasoning: contain it first, worry about comfort second. The habit that looks backward from the outside usually isn't about the action at all. It's about deciding which moments belong to a room full of people and which ones don't. The habits so far have mostly lived inside the walls of a single home or bathroom. The last three step outside that, into the space a person carries into a room simply by walking into it. 7. The scent you don't ask permission for. It's easy to think of a strong scent as a finishing touch on the way out the door. A small signature that says a lot about someone before they even speak. In Japan, that same scent is more likely to be noticed as an imposition than an impression. There's a specific term for it in the workplace, sumahara, a blend of the words for smell and harassment, used in company guidance on what counts as too much. The preference leans so strongly toward unscented or barely there fragrance that those are typically the products lining store shelves in the first place. The same care shows up in laundry, where heavily perfumed detergent is often avoided precisely because it travels with a person into every elevator and train car they step into afterward. Even flight attendants and hospital staff are asked to avoid fragrance entirely before a shift, treating scent less as a personal choice and more as shared airspace. Whispers. The question was never whether a scent smells good. It's whether it was ever really yours to share with a room that didn't ask for it. 8. The object on your face. A phone gets set down on a restaurant table, picked back up after a bathroom stop, and pressed against a cheek during a call, dozens of times over, without a single thought in between. In a culture built around hand hygiene as a constant, near-automatic habit, that same object doesn't get the same pass. The awareness that carries over from washing hands before a meal extends quietly to the objects that touch a face just as often, phones included, even if no one is scrubbing a screen every hour. The same logic covers doorknobs, elevator buttons, and shared office equipment. Ordinary surfaces treated with a kind of background awareness rather than open anxiety. Alcohol wipes sit in plenty of office drawers and school bags for exactly this reason. Not out of germophobia, but as an ordinary supply next to the pens and notebooks. Small bottles of hand sanitizer are common enough in bags and on desks that reaching for one after handling a phone barely registers as an extra step at all. Nobody needs to sterilize a phone before every call, but noticing what it's touched, even once, changes how it gets held against a face the next time. 9. The clean end of the chopsticks. Reaching into a shared dish with the same fork or chopsticks that just touched your mouth barely registers as a choice in most households. It's simply how a shared plate gets eaten from. At a Japanese table, that motion gets a small correction. The habit itself has a name, jikabashi, and it's treated as something to avoid. Dedicated serving chopsticks, called toribashi, often sit beside a shared dish specifically so personal ones never have to touch it. And where none are available, the common fallback is simply flipping one's own chopsticks around and serving from the clean, unused end. The same care travels through the rest of the meal in how dishes get passed, how a table gets set, and how nobody has to ask before it happens. Even pouring a round of drinks follows a similar quiet rule, where one person fills everyone else's glass before their own, so serving the table comes before serving yourself. Thoughtful. Flipping a pair of chopsticks for half a second doesn't look like much, but it's a small, quiet way of noticing the people sharing a table before reaching for what's on it. None of these 9 habits, on their own, will completely change how a home feels. A closed toilet lid or a quieter sniffle isn't going to transform a routine overnight. But looked at together, they start to sketch out something bigger than any single habit could. A home where the line between what's private and what's shared is drawn a little more carefully, almost everywhere you look. A quick look back at where that line shows up. Shoes at the door, washing before soaking, a closed lid, 20 seconds of hands, water over paper, a private sniffle, a scent kept close, a phone held with awareness, chopsticks turned around. Nobody needs to adopt all 9 overnight, and no home needs to feel like it failed a test for missing a few. None of it comes from stricter rules or higher standards. It comes from one quiet question, asked at almost every threshold. Does this stay with me, or does it belong to the room? Which of these 9 already lives in your home without you noticing, and which one might be worth trying tonight? If this changed the way you look at your own front door, subscribe for more everyday habits worth noticing.